Hi, hello. Hello, everybody. How is your week going? I hope it's going really well. Gosh, we've got so much to crack on with today. So I'm going to patch in our friends from Facebook because today I'm going to be joined by Dr. Louise Newson. So we're going to get straight on. Whoops, make sure my stand doesn't fall over. Hello, Facebook. How's everybody? What a great day, and what a great day to be having a chat about all things menopause and migraine and hormones. Honestly, our channels have just gone crazy, both at Earle Wellbeing and mine as well. So apologies if we don't get round to answering everything, but I'm really thrilled to say that not only am I going to be joined right here in just a moment by Dr. Louise Newson, who is, of course, the wonderful menopause doctor, but also by some of her GP and medical colleagues who work with her, who are medical experts, menopause specialists, and proper doctors. And they are also going to be joining us, answering comments on Facebook and also here on Instagram. So a huge thank you for that as Louise and I chat. Now, as Facebook guys, you know that we are able to do links, and I've got the wonderful Amy from my digital team. Hi, Amy. She's saying hi to everyone. So she is on Facebook, and she will put links to everything that we talk about. So if we talk about my download to HRT, for example, or some of the features that we've written, or the podcast, then there'll be links that you can go to. Guys on Instagram, you can either head over to the Earle Wellbeing magazine Facebook page afterwards because it stays up, or we will put as much as we can on the Earle Wellbeing website. So you can go, thanks for all the waves, so that you can go and have a look there. On the Earle Wellbeing website, there's a whole drop-down section on menopause. So it's all there. All the podcasts, lots of information, and of course the real fount of all knowledge is Menopause Doctor, and her website is incredible because that's got all the medical papers and details for other GPs and prescribing guidelines and all of that proper medical stuff. So anyway, I think I've had a request from Dr. Louise. This is always so exciting, isn't it, when you get to join somebody. Apologies for Facebook, you're not going to be able to see, but you will be able to hear across properly. So I'm going to wait. It says waiting for Menopause Doctor. So it says connecting. Hi.
Hello. Hi, Liz. Hi.
How are you? It's always a bit nerve-wracking when
you
think, is the technology going to work or not? How are you and where are you?
I'm at home in my study, which is my second home now because this is where I do my consulting as well as all my work. So it's a little oasis away from my family.
You've got a little scented candle in the background and some flowers. It's all very pretty.
It's very nice, actually. This is a candle from Rebecca Tracy, who's selling, we stock her candles. She's a local supplier, but she is giving money towards the NHS for this candle. So she sent me one. So it smells lovely, actually. And you can use some of the melted wax as a moisturiser. So it's got a
my
double
goodness,
use.
that's what we love, multitasking.
Very good, yeah.
Now, I'm going to crack straight on because honestly, as I know, whenever you do this kind of thing, our phone lines, as it were, which are now, of course, our social media lines, as I can see on here, have gone absolutely crazy. So do you mind if we just kind of dive straight in? Because everybody, I'm sure, in my audience, we know you, we love you, we know who you are, your credentials, etc. And as you know, I recorded a podcast with brain's gone, Dr. Katy Munro of the National Migraine Centre last week, and a lot of that triggered a lot of conversation about migraine and menopause. And in particular, this link, why is it that women suddenly start to get severe headaches or migraine in their sort of 40s? What's causing that?
It's very interesting, isn't it? It's thought to be associated with changing in estrogen levels. And as you know, estrogen is the most important hormone we have, and it fluctuates throughout our menstrual cycle. So there's a lot of women who are still having periods that find that their migraines get worse before their periods, so-called a menstrual migraine. And this is because estrogen levels classically reduce in amounts just before the periods. And so that can trigger. But also, as you know, when you're perimenopausal, so this is when you start to experience menopausal symptoms, but your periods are changing in type or frequency or nature, then the hormone levels you get often are very high and very low, and it's thought the changes in the hormone levels. So it's not just the level in our blood, it's the changes that can trigger. And also, as you know, migraine can be triggered by so many things. So it can be triggered by stress, it can be triggered by poor sleep, mood changes, diet changes, you know, and all these things are changing during the perimenopause and menopause. So it's no wonder that there are various triggers for migraines. And some women find that they've always had migraines. I mean, I'm a migraine sufferer myself, and I found that I was getting almost back-to-back migraines when I was perimenopausal. Obviously, didn't think about my hormones. I just thought it was because I was stressed and I was writing my website. And then suddenly the penny dropped, thankfully. But there are some women who find they only develop migraines during the perimenopause and menopause. So it can be a new onset. And obviously, as a medic, if someone has a new onset headache, we're always concerned, is there another reason for it? And in the podcast, well, both podcasts you've done have been amazing about migraine and very informative, but it's very important that women are given the right diagnosis and then looking at the bigger picture. So it's not just one treatment, but it's looking at various ways to manage, because migraines are so debilitating. They, you know,
it's terrible. Well, I mean, I've Lily,
you know,
you know, as you know, and that's definitely not menopausal, but it is down to change. So it's very interesting, this change of routine or change of hormone, as you say, that during a menstrual cycle, the changes in hormones that trigger it. There seems to be a lot of confusion even now amongst some GPs saying that they can't prescribe HRT if you have migraine, but that's not the case, is it?
No, and I can understand totally why this happens, and we see people in our clinic all the time who are told this. And so if you look at, as you know, HRT, it's only 3 letters, hormone replacement therapy. There are different types, different doses, different ways of having it. And so if you have a tablet estrogen, then it gets digested, metabolized in the body, and it triggers the clotting factors in our liver. So there's a very small risk of clot, including stroke, in women who take HRT. Now, for most women, this risk is low because their overall risk is low. So we don't worry too much about it. Whereas if you have a risk of, or if you've got a history of migraine, especially with aura, then there's a small increased risk of stroke in these women. So you don't want to take something that's going to increase your risk further. And this is the reason that women shouldn't have the combined oral contraceptive pill if they have migraines when they're younger.
Right.
So a lot of doctors think, well, HRT is like the contraceptive pill, no to the contraceptive pill, no to HRT. And they're right in that tablet HRT should not be given to women who have migraines. But as you know, the safest way for all of us to take HRT is the estrogen through the skin as a patch or gel, or now there's a spray. And so it gets straight into the bloodstream, bypasses the liver, so there's no risk of clot. Yeah. And then if women need a progesterone because they've still got their womb, then there's we need to take a type of progesterone. The synthetic progestogens, which are in some of the combination tablets and some of the combination patches, have a very small risk of clot, including small risk of stroke. And it's the synthetic progestogens that are in the combined oral contraceptive pill as well. So if you have a history of migraine, you shouldn't be taking the synthetic progestogens either. But you can safely take the micronized progesterone, the utrogestan, which you know about, but also the Mirena coil contains a synthetic progestogen, but it's a very, very low dose. So women who have migraines can still usually safely have a Mirena coil. So there's always options. And so certainly if anybody's listening who's been told they can't have HRT, then sadly that's not correct. They can't have some types of HRT.
Right, but there's plenty of other types.
Yeah, so it's
something that you mentioned to me before recently, I managed to get hold of some to try, which was the new spray estrogen only. So normally I would use a gel, so the transdermal gel, which I rub on, which I like, but I use a lot. I use 6 pumps every night, so it's quite a lot of rubbing into my hips and thighs. So I've just recently been trying the new spray, but I was reading the little leaflet that comes with it, and I was really shocked to see that talks about risk of clot.
Yeah, absolutely, and it's in all the inserts. So,
because there isn't any risk of clot. With, as far as I understand it, from having your estrogen through the skin. So why did they put this incorrect information in there?
This is the real problem. So all the SPC, the inserts that go with any type of HRT, they're all the same. So whether you have a tablet or a patch, whether you have a new progesterone, an older progesterone, whether you even have vaginal estrogen, which isn't even HRT, as you know, it only works locally, still has all these warnings. So you'll see that it will say risk of clot, risk of breast cancer.
Yeah.
We know estrogen only doesn't have a risk of breast cancer. It will talk about all
It's
sorts
so
of
scary, and it's just wrong, isn't it? I mean, I feel
totally.
that this has to be a kind of discrimination of healthcare. I can't imagine any other kind of help, or I mean, it's not even a medication because it's a natural hormone, but I can't imagine any other kind of treatment where something would be so blatantly incorrect.
Yes,
I mean, it's shocking.
I have been in my usual way trying to campaign about it. So I've been to the Houses of Parliament about it and involved in MP Rachel McLean. I've been speaking with the MHRA, the regulatory body for medicines, about it as well. And I think one of the problems is historically what they do is they any warnings they'll add. So for example, if you take paracetamol and you look in the insert, it will say risk of all these different things because people have reported it and there have been associations. And what they do is they add and add and add. But from my understanding is they've never taken out things. So when there's new evidence, new research, they don't remove, they just add. So this is a problem with all medicines, which I've sort of unmasked for them, so they're not that happy with me. But it's absolutely outrageous that we know we've got good studies to show that through the skin estrogen does not have a risk of clot. And so even in the insert, it will say, you know, warn your doctor or tell your doctor if you have migraines. Well, actually, if you have estrogen through the skin, it's absolutely safe.
Yeah, totally safe.
But the real problem also with these inserts is that they're associated with the way we prescribe as doctors. So if a doctor tries to prescribe, it will have the same warning coming up. So if I, as a doctor in the GP practice, prescribe a spray, it will say risk of clot. And so you can understand why doctors become so worried and risk averse. So,
sure, because they're getting fed the wrong information from the information sheet. Yeah, that is really wrong. Oh my goodness. You know, Louise, as soon as this lockdown is finished, I mean, I am with you. I'm chaining myself to railings on this.
It's a huge problem, and there's a group of us. I've been engaging with a great professor who works at St Thomas's Hospital. She's a professor of haematology and runs Thrombosis UK, which is a fantastic charity. And she's very keen to work with us on the whole clot risk because she sees a lot of women in her clinic unnecessarily who have been told. So it's not just migraine. If a woman's had a clot in the past or a family history of a clot, for the same reasons they can still take estrogen through the skin, yet they're often incorrectly advised not to. So she's going to help with some of this campaign, and obviously she's got
questions coming in here about things being available. The gel and the Introgestan, are these all widely available on the NHS?
Yes. So all of this is, so the estrogen gel and the Introgestan, the micronized progesterone, the supply is really good. There's been a real problem with patches, especially Earle patches and Estradot patches. Now Earle patches has been taken over by a different company called Themarax, and they're coming in. The Earle 100s we're still waiting for, supposed to be in May, so watch this space. Estradot is really variable throughout the country. We've heard today we've had an order for our clinic for the Estradot 100s, but we haven't had any for months. So it's very hit and miss. The spray has just come into the UK. It's been available in other countries for a while. It's called Lenzetto. It is available in the NHS, but it's not on the formularies yet. And obviously they were going to do a big push, but because of COVID-19, obviously they can't. So some GPs will be able to do a handwritten prescription for it. And I know there's some work with some of my colleagues who are trying to get it on their local formularies. So at the moment, we're obviously prescribing it privately, but that's not ideal. It should be available.
I've got quite a few questions here relating to cancer, which is a different topic, which we won't discuss. But I know that you did a big Instagram, TV Live and
Yes.
Facebook specifically on HRT and cancer and breast cancer. Is that still active anywhere? Can we
Yes,
go
I put
anywhere
it.
to see it?
No, I put it yesterday on my Instagram. So if anyone goes to my Instagram menopause_doctor, then they'll see on my feed. I put it there as a video, and it will be uploaded onto my website as well.
Great. And I've also recorded, for anybody interested, a couple of very interesting podcasts with Professor Michael Baum, specifically on breast cancer generally, and breast cancer and HRT. And
yes, and they're really worth a listen. I've just recorded a podcast this morning actually with
have you
an oncologist called Tony Branson from Newcastle, talking about choices for women who've had breast cancer. So that will come out in the next few weeks, and that's really good. It's well worth
fantastic. I have to say, I think one of the benefits, there are very few of them, but one of them is that we've got perhaps a little bit more time to go into subjects that really are affecting us, and to listen to podcasts and to go and information gather from the right sources, which is why I love talking to you and your team, because you're evidence-based, you're credible, you're bulletproof in terms of your research and your credibility, and you're not in it for the money. You're not a profiteering bioidentical clinic. You know, you're not trying to sell herbal supplements that don't work for vastly inflated prices. You're all about evidence and helping women and helping their doctors to help them, helping the GPs.
Absolutely. That's really important for us as a clinic. As you know, the only reason it's private is because we can't get jobs in the NHS running a menopause clinic because there aren't enough, which is really frustrating. But I think we're finding a lot of people that we're talking to is that actually, because of the lockdown, we're now thinking about our lives and our well-being. And, you know, a lot of us are looking at the exercise, the food. You know, we've got a bit of space in our brains, and a lot of women now, I think, are realizing that they don't have to suffer as perhaps they have. And when you're on a conveyor belt with your family and your job and your life, you know, we take second step, don't we? We're in the back seat often, but actually it's really important that women are given the right choices and help to help them, because as you know, we can be menopausal, well, we will be for the rest of our lives, and for hopefully for a lot of us it will be decades.
And on that subject, is it ever too late to start? I mean, I do know the answer to this, but I'd like to hear it from you. Question that's come in here from Kim on Facebook. Is it too late to start HRT at 51?
Absolutely not. So we know that the evidence is that the most benefit from starting HRT is within 10 years of the menopause. So that often means women under the age of 60, because the average age of the menopause is around 50, as you know. But there is some evidence that even starting it later can be beneficial. And I've just put there's a fact sheet on my website actually specifically talking about this. And we see a lot of women who are actually mothers of our patients. So these are women in their late 60s, early 70s who have been denied HRT for decades, but are still struggling, often with symptoms such as anxiety or vaginal dryness, and they do benefit from HRT because it's safe. It's a really safe treatment.
Well, as you know, my mother, aged 80, has gone back onto it and is now sleeping really, really well. And I did ask her whether I could share. I said, you know, can I share this anecdote? And she stood and she looked at me, she put her hands on her hips and she said, I am not an anecdote, she said, I am the truth. And of course you can share it. So, so, you know, I mean, it did take 3 doctors. We had to go and see 3 different people, but she is now back on it and flourishing. So I think, you know, read up, use this time to read up, get the evidence. Your website is incredible. So much there, so much you can download. Tell us about the green climacteric score.
So
sorry if I said that wrongly.
No, it's absolutely fine. The green climacteric score is a symptom scoring questionnaire that's been available since the 70s. So it's a research-based questionnaire. We use it in our clinic for all our patients, but if you put in questionnaire on my website, you'll see it. And it just looks at symptoms, the physical, the psychological, the vasomotor symptoms. It does ask about libido as well. And it rates them from not having them at all to being severe. And it's a really useful tracking device. And in fact, the app that we're developing that you know about, the Balance, will have this as a key part, because women will be able to download it and show it to their doctors. But it's really good because often we don't realise how much our symptoms are affecting us, and also how many other symptoms are associated.
Sure.
Such as
I didn't know. Headache, well, exactly, coming back to the whole migraine headache thing. And I had tinnitus in my ears, and I didn't realise that was because my estrogen receptors were losing estrogen. And it was only after being on HRT for about a year that I suddenly realised, hold on a minute, I haven't got tinnitus anymore. And then talking to you, realising it was because I'd replaced my estrogen. But no audiologist had ever picked that up. No hearing clinic had ever said to me, oh, look at you, Liz, you're in your 50s. Obviously, that's going to affect your hearing.
I know we see so many women who've been to ENT clinics, but also to rheumatology clinics because muscles, joint aches, you know, and even, you know, we're talking obviously about migraines, and we see a lot of women who have gone to migraine clinics, seen some real leaders in their field, and they still don't think about.
That's shocking, isn't it? That, you know, surely if you are a middle-aged woman and you're presenting in a migraine clinic, with migraine or migraine, apparently you can say it both ways. One of the first questions is going to be, well, let's try you on some estrogen because it's safe and the chances are it will help you. Well, the same with...
Absolutely, and as you know, there is some heavy-duty drugs that, you know, Lily eloquently mentioned, but actually, as a menopausal migraine sufferer myself, I would much prefer to take HRT because of the other long-term health benefits it gives me, rather than taking something like gabapentin or pregabalin, which is fine if it's needed. But actually, as a doctor, we need to take a step back and look at the over picture. You know, what's the underlying cause? Can we treat that cause rather than just treat the symptom? And that's what we try and do in medicine in general.
Couple of questions here about taking other types of medication with HRT. So presumably,
to be honest, anything can be taken. What we have to think about with HRT, for women's having body identical HRT, so this is the same structure as we produce ourselves, so the estrogen through the skin, or with the micronized progesterone and also testosterone, which is body identical, then all you're doing is replacing the hormones. So there's nothing you can't do. You can still drink alcohol, you can still take any medication. It's not going to interfere. It's the same as saying all you're doing is giving yourself the hormones you were having a few years ago. So that's why it's very safe. And actually, if a woman is taking some supplements, which they often feel is safer, because they're labelled as a food supplement, they're not regulated in the same way, and you have to look at the ingredients really carefully. It's really important looking at the sources, because they haven't got the same stringent regulation and that the prescriptions that we prescribe.
And just because something's a natural supplement doesn't mean it's safe. You can get liver damage.
Plants that are out there. You know, we have to be really careful.
A couple more quick things. I know we're running out of time. This is a funny one here on Instagram. Is there an HRT that doesn't use horse urine? Well,
yes.
That's such an old-fashioned HRT. I know it's a myth that's perpetuated, usually by private clinics trying to sell you bioidentical stuff, but all the modern HRT is plant-based, isn't it? It comes from what?
Absolutely. I mean, you can still get the horse urine conjugated equine estrogen if you want it, and for a few people, you know, there's still good evidence it works, but actually most of us prefer not to have that as a derivative in our HRTs.
And how long can we safely stay on it?
So as long as we live, because all we're doing is replacing our hormones. So if we stop HRT, I could stop my HRT today and have no symptoms, but as soon as I stop it, I'm going to have this massive bone turnover, increasing my risk of osteoporosis. I'm going to have inflammation in my blood vessels, in my joints, and so I'll have this increased risk of heart disease, dementia, diabetes. So I take
dementia. That is the whole thing on dementia. And actually, interestingly, obviously in these times, and I'm sure you will have seen this too, in fact, maybe you even sent me the link, the article showing American researchers researching estrogen as a potential part of the solution for COVID-19.
Yes, I mean, this is a huge topic. I've had quite a few very interesting meetings today and yesterday about it, including with the researchers from New York who are giving estrogen patches to men and women, interestingly, in the acute phase, just for a week.
You heard it here first, folks. That's fascinating.
So, but there is, because we know, I'm not disclosing anything sensational, but we know that men are more likely to die from COVID, more likely to be in intensive care and be hospitalised. That's been known for a while. We also know there's a protection for pregnant women, which is unusual because most viruses, their immunity is reduced during pregnancy, whereas actually there seems to be a protective. So I've been working also with some people in Liverpool University talking about looking at this data, because obviously when you're pregnant, your estrogen levels are very high.
So fascinating.
I'm doing some work with NHS England, and Tim Spector, who's doing his COVID tracking app. If any of you don't know, is worth looking at. So I had a meeting with him as well this morning. So there's some key
well
people.
done.
And as you know, Liz, I'm quite persistent when I've got an
You
idea.
are. You and me both.
Watch this space. Yeah. But again, I don't want to say something that isn't right. No. But what is reassuring is that estrogen is very good for our immune systems. So it's a positive. Some people are scared about taking HRT during this time, but the only thing is it's positive, and we know it helps our immune function and our immune system.
Fantastic. And I'm going to finish on a lighter note, but I know it's important for a lot of people. A lot of people are talking about HRT and weight gain and giving them bigger boobs. What's the truth here?
It's really important. Again, it depends on the dose and type, but if you get the dose and type right, then actually a lot of women lose weight.
That's
there is some evidence that through the skin estrogen helps reduce weight, some evidence that testosterone does. The older types of progesterone, the progestogens, do have a bit of fluid retention associated with them, so people then can put on weight. And as you know, a lot of women feel better when they're on HRT, so it's easier to get up and exercise and to eat better because you're feeling better. And if you have too little estrogen, then your body tries to reserve and retain it, so then people often put on weight in the midline because our fat cells contain some estrogen.
That's so fascinating. Louise, we've run out of time, and I so want to carry on. Can we do this again? I know I said it last time, but I said it last Thursday. Can we do it next Thursday as well?
Absolutely. It's such a great way of getting messages out to people.
And I have to say a massive shout out to all the GPs who've also been, and menopause specialists who've been contributing. I've been watching my screens here, multitasking obviously as I can do now that my brain is full of estrogen. And there have been lots of great answers. And I know that particularly on Facebook, we're going to be able to continue to tap in. And if anybody on Instagram is able to head over to Facebook, then that would be a good way to perhaps continue that discussion. Even if you're not personally on Facebook, perhaps you've got somebody living under your roof who can or can give you access to it later on, because we'll keep that up. But your website, remind us again of the website.
So it's just menopausedoctor.co.uk.
And there's so much on there, honestly, guys.
Yeah, certainly. If you go to resources at the top, there's a download with there's a menu which has got booklets, it's got fact sheets, it's got my podcasts, it's got about my book as well. So there's lots of information. Yes. Fantastic.
Well, you're just an angel, really. So thank you, and have a great rest of the day. Thank you for fitting us in today. I know there's a lot on, and I know that you and your team are doing online consultations, which means that you're now opened up to the whole world. So you're going to be inundated.
Because of our insurance, we can't see people from abroad, which is a real disappointment. No, we can't.
So UK.
But certainly from UK base, we're doing video consultations, which women are really enjoying. So yeah.
Brilliant. Well, thank you. Bless you, and thank you to you and your team. See you again soon, I hope. Bye-bye. Bye. Oh my goodness, wasn't that just amazing? I always say this, but I could talk to Louise just forever. And every time I dive into a subject with her, something else comes up. I mean, who knew that we would be talking today about the conversations that she's been having with professors this morning, looking specifically at COVID and about the estrogenic protection in terms of our immune system. I mean, just incredible. So we are sadly coming out of time for today, but just a couple of little bits of updates that I want to share in other news, as it were. You are hopefully in for a treat very soon, because I'm updating the Liz Earle Wellbeing website. So that's changing over the weekend, and that's going to mean that tomorrow there's not going to be the Friday 5 podcast because of a few kind of technicalities, digi-technicalities. But I will be back here at lunchtime doing my Instagram live, and I'm going to be joined by Simon Lysett, the amazing florist that we had last week, who was so brilliant. And we're going to be talking about tulips and showing lots of lovely things and doing great stuff for the weekend ahead. Well done to all of you who snapped up my magazine. Oh my goodness. Did you see the pictures in my stories? Last night, it was all hands on deck. I grabbed my 2 boys and I said, right, guys, we are heading into the farm office because that's where I've got a bit of space. And we were just packing magazines, because what I said, and I still stand by it, obviously, because I'm of my word, I have some of these in a box in my office. And this is the current issue. Okay, it's the March-April issue, which I know is hard to find in shops. and it's not available as a subscription because we sold out of it in subscription. So I do still have a few of these, and you'll find them on the website, Liz Earle Wellbeing. It's the single issue. Okay, so you just pay for the single issue and a stamp, and I send it to you. Or my boys will wrap it up. I apologize in advance that the wrapping is not perfect, but you know, needs must, and these are difficult times. But what I also found when I was doing my clear out was I found a few boxes of this little gem, and this is from 2 years ago. It's called Spring Joy, and it is just full of the most delicious, lovely recipes and beauty ideas, everything from sort of cellulite to getting rid of bags under the eyes to chocolate recipes. I mean, it's a really, really lovely issue. So what I said, possibly rather foolishly, was that if you go and grab one of these, I will put one of these in the envelope as well and pack them up together and just send it out free. And that's what we've been doing. So we were up quite late last night packing envelopes and then having to put extra tape around them because, of course, the envelopes are now so full that they're going to split. So we needed to make sure that didn't happen. And printing off address labels. And, you know, it reminded me of the old days of the beauty company, actually, when I was still involved with the beauty company, and we would get orders in and it would be all hands on deck packing boxes. And I know many of you who run small family businesses will remember or be part of that very process at the moment, going through it, when you just have to gather everybody. The call goes out, action stations, you know, we need you to help pack stuff. So anyway, long story short, I do still have a few, but I'm not putting it on the website. I'm not publicizing it. Okay, it's just for us. It's for our circle of trust here. Okay, guys. So you have to go and just get that on the website, and then I put it in an envelope with this one as well, and that's the only way to get it. And I've got, oh, Sarah's saying they say out of stock. I will check that. I do think we have a few more. So after this, I will check in with Amy. Amy, you can maybe have a little look, or maybe check with Betty or Annie in the office. Well, not in the office, in the home office, working from home. And we will just double check, and I'll go and count up, literally next door, I'll go and count up the number of magazines, and we might have like 10 or something that I can pop back onto the website. So if they are showing out of stock, then do pop back in an hour or so when I've done a bit of a count up and I can see, but hopefully, fingers crossed, we do still have some left. Also, I've got my yearbook 1. I'm going to be making things from this tomorrow and on Saturday. So if you've got your copy, then grab that and join me. I'm wearing my lovely travel wrap. I don't know about you, but today I woke up, it was pouring with rain. It's brightening a little bit, but it's still really cold and grey and gloomy out there. And we've got a special deal going with the travel wrap. This is one of my favourites. I think it was the first one I ever bought from them. And they're giving us 10% off. They're handmade out of cashmere in Scotland, and there's a feature on the website, actually, Liz Earle Wellbeing, about them, because they are an amazing company. And I went up and did lots of photography there and got to know them because I was so impressed. And I just want to give a shout out to this great British brand that's doing so well. Take a look at their website, Travel Wrap, and they will embroider them. So these are this is one that I've got. I know it's background, Liz Earle, Ellie. This also gets borrowed by Lily Earle. Got to think about that, haven't I, when I get my initials done? But that's another one of my favourites. Oh, I've just had a message through from Betty. I love this interactive. We have 39 left. Okay, maybe you looked at the wrong bit of the website, but we have, if you go to this, just look at this online where it says, and in fact on Facebook, Amy's popping the link in for Lisa to say, use this link. If you just go to where it says single issue for here, click on that. It won't mention this one because I didn't tell my team I was doing this. This is something that's just between us. So if you just buy that one, I promise you, as long as I've got them, those 39 of them will have this. Once those 39 have gone, then I don't know, we'll put a little note up. So I apologise to my digital team for going rogue. They hate it when I do this because everything's all supposed to be planned and, you know, all set up on the website, and then I just kind of get an idea in my head and go off and do it. And anyway, but it's me. I've got to wrap them, guys. Okay, me and my boys will be over in the farm office this afternoon, wrapping them and packing them and literally taking them down to the village post office. We took, I think, 7 bags this morning. So big shout out of thanks to all those in the post office who are working on the front line delivering all our stuff. Anyway, I didn't tell you the offer code, did I? So if you want your travel wrap, you get 10% off. You have to use the code LizEarle10. Okay, capital letters, Liz Earle 10, and that's off their entire stock, and it's just lovely. They're really, really beautiful, cozy treats. And they're also running a competition on their website where you can nominate somebody, an NHS care worker or somebody really special who needs a hug, and they will nominate. You can nominate. I'm not quite sure how they're choosing it, but they are choosing somebody, I think, each week to receive one of these free of charge. So that's a lovely, lovely initiative. So big shout out to Travel Wrap. Thank you so much for being with me. Thank you very much also to all the menopause doctors who have been online answering so many questions. It's just great. I love it when something like this works and can get so much good information out there. See you tomorrow, same time, same place, 12:30 with Simon Lysett. If you have any tulips in your house or garden, grab them, because we're going to be seeing what we can do with them. But until then, go well, have a lovely rest of the day. Sending lots of love. Bye-bye.